Secretary Clinton, your campaign has recently ramped up criticism of Senator Sanders for attending Democratic Party fundraisers from which you say he benefited. But nearly half of your financial sector donations appear to come from just two wealthy financiers, George Soros and Donald Sussman, for a total of about $10 million. You have said that there's no quid pro quo involved. But is that also true of the donations that wealthy Republicans give to Republican candidates, contributors including the Koch brothers?
I can't speak for the Koch brothers. You're referring to a super PAC that we don't coordinate with, that was set up to support President Obama, that has now decided they want to support me. They are the ones who should respond to any questions. Let's talk about our campaigns. I'm very proud of the fact that we have more than 750,000 donors, and the vast majority of them are giving small contributions. So I'm proud of Senator Sanders and his supporters. I think it's great that, Senator Sanders, President Obama, and I have more donors than any three people who have ever run, and certainly on the Democratic side. That's the way it should be. And I'm going to continue to reach out to thank all my online contributors for everything they are doing for me, to encourage them to help me and do more, just as Senator Sanders is. And I think that is the real key here. We both have a lot of small donors. I think that sets us apart from a lot of what's happening on the Republican side. The Koch brothers have a very clear political agenda. It is an agenda, in my view, that would do great harm to our country. We're going to fight it as hard as we can, and we're going to fight whoever the Republicans nominate, who will be very dependent upon the Koch brothers and others.
Senator, I'm asking if Democratic donors are different from Republican donors.
What we are talking about in reality is a corrupt campaign finance system. That's what we're talking about. And we have to be honest about it. And it is undermining American democracy. When extraordinarily wealthy people make very large contributions to super PACs, and in many cases in this campaign, super PACs have more money, have raised more money than individual candidates have. Okay, we had a decision to make early on. Do we do a super PAC? And we said no. We don't represent Wall Street. We don't represent the billionaire class, so it ends up I'm the only candidate up here of the many candidates who has no super PAC. But what we did is we said to the working families of this country, look, we know things are tough, but if you want to help us, go beyond establishment politics and establishment economics. Send us something. And it turned out that up until this point, and this has blown me away, never in a million years would I have believed that I'd be standing here tonight telling you that we have received 3.5 million individual contributions from well over 1 million people. Now, Secretary Clinton's super PAC, as I understand it, received $25 million last reporting period, $15 million from Wall Street. Our average contribution is $27. I'm very proud of that.
Senator, let me just respond.
Senator Sanders, are you saying
we are mixing apples and oranges? My 750,000 donors have contributed more than 1.5 million donations. I'm very proud. That, I think, between the two of us demonstrates the strength of the support we have among people who want to see change in our country. But the real issue that I think the senator is injecting into this is that if you had a super PAC like President Obama had, which now says it wants to support me, it's not my PAC. If you take donations from Wall Street, you can't be independent. I would just say I debated then Senator Obama numerous times on stages like this. And he was the recipient of the largest number of Wall Street donations of anybody running on the Democratic side ever. Now, when it mattered, he stood up and took on Wall Street. He pushed through and he passed the Dodd-Frank regulation, the toughest regulations since the 1930s. So let's not in any way imply here that either President Obama or myself would in any way not take on any vested interest, whether it's Wall Street or drug companies or insurance companies or, frankly, the gun lobby, to stand up to do what's best for the American people.
Well, let's not insult the intelligence of the American people. People aren't dumb. Why in God's name does Wall Street make huge campaign contributions? I guess just for the fun of it. They want to throw money around. Why does the pharmaceutical industry make huge campaign contributions? Any connection, maybe, to the fact that our people pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs? Why does the fossil fuel industry spend huge amounts of money on campaign contributions? Any connection to the fact that not one Republican candidate for president thinks and agrees with the scientific community that climate change is real and that we have got to transform our energy system? And when we talk about Wall Street, let's talk about Wall Street. I voted for Dodd-Frank, got an important amendment in it. My view, it doesn't go anywhere near far enough. But when we talk about Wall Street, you have Wall Street and major banks have paid $200 billion in fines since the great crash. No Wall Street executive has been prosecuted.
All right.
Well, let's just follow up on this because, you know, I've made it very clear that no bank is too big to fail, no executive too powerful to jail, and because of Dodd-Frank, we now have in law a process that the president, the Federal Reserve, and others can use if any bank poses a systemic risk. I think that's a major accomplishment. I agree, however, it doesn't go far enough because what it focuses on are the big banks, which Senator Sanders has talked about a lot for good reason. I go further in the plan that I've proposed, which has been called the toughest, most effective, comprehensive plan for reining in the other risks that the financial system could face. It was an investment bank, Lehman Brothers, that contributed to our collapse. It was a big insurance company, AIG. It was Countrywide Mortgage. My plan would sweep all of them into a regulatory framework so we can try to get ahead of what the next problems might be. And I believe that not only Barney Frank, Paul Krugman, and others have said that what I have proposed is the most effective. It goes in the right direction. We have Dodd-Frank. We can use it to break up the banks if that's appropriate. But let's not kid ourselves. As we speak, there are new problems on the horizon. I want to get ahead of those, and that's why I've proposed a much more comprehensive approach to deal with all of these.
We have to go to a break.
Let me, again, respectfully disagree with Secretary Clinton here. When you have 3 out of the 4 largest financial institutions in this country bigger today than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail, when you have 6 financial institutions having assets equivalent to 58% of the GDP of America, right, issuing 2/3 of the credit cards and 1/3 of the mortgages. Look, I think if Teddy Roosevelt were alive today, that great trust buster would have said, break them up. I think he would have been right. I think he would have said, bring back a 21st century Glass-Steagall legislation. I think that would have been right as well. That's my view.